Hi, Departer here. Um, had to do a little run to New Burlin, Wisconsin with my daughter. She's shy. But anyway, um, the Lord put it on, pressed it on my heart to get out some of these testimonies that I had that I still remember like a Rolodex in my mind. And the witness to it is my daughter. And she can give full agreement as to what happened. Okay, just so that you guys know how serious a living testimony is for people who are lost out there and don't think that, God is so far away that you can't reach him. And yes, you can reach it. Okay, I'm going to get right to it. My first testimony, well, number one, it was like 20 degrees outside today, and I went outside for a little bit with the snow and the slush. Just a little raspy in the throat, but you can hear me fine. We were in a place called Elgin, Texas at the time, and I had this old Suburban. It was like a 78 Chevy Suburban. And I was just going to press my way to come to Florida to visit my daughter and my daughter and my son. Okay, and I had her going along. That's my daughter. Okay, so she's young. But on the way, I was telling her that I'm going to have a full tank of gas before I can go on this trip out of the blue, just a full tank of gas. I only had so much money, but I needed that one full tank that'll get me out of the state of Texas. Yes. Okay, she said yes. Okay, on my way out, going down the road, I had run out of gas in the old Suburban because my Suburban, the little meter that shows how much gas is in the tank, the float, wasn't working. So I thought I had enough, and when I got in, it plop, 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 plop. No more gas. So we were on a hot highway, and I had milk containers in the back. Now, you're not supposed to have a milk container putting gas in, but that's all I had. So we got as many, I think I had like maybe 4 of them. She carried 2 and I carried 2. And we started walking towards the gas station, which was about maybe 2 miles away. Okay, we were walking on this hot highway. This black Mercedes-Benz came out of nowhere going down the highway. And he saw us, the guy that was in it. He slowed down, and then he sped it up. And then he turned around, and he came right back at us as we were walking, going to the gas station. Okay. What I'm trying to say, the guy yelled from the window that I would not let 2 saints walk on this hot highway. Where are you going? I said, to the gas station to get gas because we ran out of gas. Yeah. And then he told us to get in his car and that he'll take us to the gas station. He was all dressed up in his Sunday best suit. I did not know who he was. And I said, okay, so we got in his car as he's driving us back to the gas station. So we got to the gas station. I went in and I only had so much money and only can get like 4 gallons of gas. So I got the 4 gallons I pumped it inside the milk containers. This is Texas. But anyway, I filled it up, and we were on our way walking back to the car. And what he said to me was just totally, he says, "I'll take you to your car." And I said, "No, these are milk containers, and they smell like gas, and you have like a brand new Mercedes. No, I would not sit in the front seat with milk containers smelling like gas, contaminating your leather seats. I won't do it." And he told us to get into the car with the containers. He'll take us back to our car. And what happened from there, he did take us back. So I had a funnel, and I put the 4 gallons of fuel into the tank. And I knew that that was not going to really get us back because it's a Suburban and it holds like 45 gallons of gas. That's just like putting a teaspoon of gas in a tank that size. He told me that for me to follow him back so that he won't, if something should happen, he can pick us up. So he followed me all the way back to the gas station, and we got there. When we got to the gas station, he got out of his car and he ran to a tenant that was inside the station, and he told the tenant that fill their tank up all the way, top their tank with the fuel. I was trying to tell him, no, you don't want to top off of my tank because it's like a 45-gallon tank, and I know it, and it's going to cost way more than $50 to fill it up. He filled the whole thing up. I told him, "Give me your name and number. I'll give you back the money." He told me no. He said he was a minister, and he saw that my daughter and I was walking in the heat, and we're trying to make it to the gas station, and he said the Lord told him to fill our tanks up. When he realized what we were doing, the Lord told him to do it. I'm just telling you that sometimes you think you have nothing, and you're trying your best to get to where you're going, and the Lord will always send an angel, someone out there to compensate for you. But you got to have that mindset of believing it, that the Lord's going to get you out of that situation. And we don't know how God does things, but to trust and believe. So he filled our tank up, and that's all I needed. At the time, I went home, we packed up, and we were on our way to Florida. We got all the way into the car, and I made a beeline out of Elgin, Texas, got around Austin, hit I-10, Interstate 10, all the way down to Orange, Texas. It's a little place called Orange, Texas. Once you go across Orange, Texas, you will hit I-10 going to Beaumont and going across Beaumont, Louisiana. And Beaumont, Louisiana is right there by I-10. But before we can get to the long bridge, if anybody has ever been out there, there's a very long bridge, and it always says check tank before going across the bridge, because it's narrow and it's a one-way bridge, and if you conk out, I mean you can't get across it. Well, that night I was trying to get across the long bridge, and it started to rain, and the rain was coming really bad, but I'm not afraid of rain. I can drive through anything. But as I'm going, uh, what happened, uh, before I can get to the bridge, I peeled off. I don't know how I did it, and I turned around going back to Texas. I went back to I was headed backwards, and I stopped. I slowed down. I said, "Wait a minute. We just came from the west. We're going to the east." So I turned around, and I was going back up again. And somehow I kept peeling off, and next thing I know, I'm on my way back to Texas. I did it 3 times. And my daughter, she stopped me. She said, "Mom, maybe God doesn't want us to go that way and don't want us to go across that bridge." I was angry, really angry, because I wanted to press forward, press your way through. But out of the mouths of babes sometime is the truth. So I turned around. I turned around and I went back to Texas, back to Elgin. And I stayed there. I was kind of angry that I got there. It was somewhere around like maybe 12 o'clock midnight. But anyway, I took a good, nice rest. In the morning, the rain cleared up, and I was back on the road again, headed back, going towards Florida, going through I-10 all over again, going down to Beaumont to get to that long bridge after Orange, Texas on I-10. And then all of a sudden, crackling across the radio, it said I-10 was closed all last night, saying that there was a 10-car pileup accident. A 10-car pileup. And they're still trying to get stuff off the road so that I-10 can be open again. And it was about 2 more hours until I can hit I-10 coming to Beaumont to go across Beaumont, Texas. I could not believe it. And I told my daughter at the time that is why the Lord kept turning us around, because he did not want us to go across that bridge and get tangled up in that mess. And I thank God for that. My next miracle that happened, I was coming back. We stayed about, maybe 2 weeks in Florida. We saw everybody. We had to kiss everybody goodbye. And we were on our way back to Texas. And on the way back, coming across Mississippi, because the old car, had all this stuff going on with the engine. And I was a mechanic at the time, and all I can do is put a Band-Aid over it so that this thing can keep going and get us back to Texas. It was bra 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 bra, but it was rolling, and I was happy with that. But coming back, when I hit Mississippi, the old Suburban threw a rod, and white smoke was coming out of the engine, bellowing out.
Yes, it was everywhere.
The smoke was everywhere. So I said, we threw a rod. I don't know where we are. But get this. We coasted down a hill, and it coasted up a hill, and it parked, and I parked at this gas station perfectly, because there was no more, the engine threw a rod, and the engine just shut down, and I was just in coasting mode, and it went down a hill, and it went up a hill, and it's parked beautifully in the parking lot of a gas station out of nowhere. in the gas station. I was looking at my daughter. She was very upset because she has to get back to school. She was going to Texas A&M University in Bryan College Station. So, and I had to get back to work. And the car was down, and the only thing in my pocket was $100. That was it. That's all I had. Now, going back like that, that's like on a wing and a prayer, but that's all I had in my pocket at the time was just $100. So sitting there in the gas station, people kept walking by us, telling us that, yo, your car has thrown a rod, you can't go no further, uh, you know, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. And so only thing that I can think of at the time, I told her to calm down, let the Lord talk to me so I can understand what's going on. And I asked the Lord, what do I do next? And then he told me. He told me to call the wreckers, start calling the wreckers services. So I started calling each wreckers service. And I was asking them, how much is it to get a car towed? And they said, towed where? There you go. I had no place to tow it. I was so far away from Florida, it's impossible for me to call my son or my daughter to come and pick me up. And I knew nobody in this whole state of Mississippi. But anyway, we kept going down a list of all these tow companies until we fell on the last one. And it was a tow company I could never tell you. It was just something that the Lord did. And when I looked at the tow company, I called the number and I said, well, we called a couple of numbers and nobody worked on a Saturday. It was a Saturday evening. It was going on, it was like about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, but I called the last one and an elderly guy picked up the phone. And he asked me, where are you at? And I told him at the gas station. I think it was a BP gas station. I said, I'm at the BP gas station. And he says, what's wrong with your car? And I said, well, I think it threw a rod. And he said, oh, that sounds bad. Let me see, maybe I can take you to somebody to try to get it fixed or something. And I knew I only had $100. And I said, no. And he says, well, I'll come down and I'll get you guys. So he came down with a big old slide bed wrecker. I mean, it was a big old slide bed wrecker. And so he was trying to hoist the car up on the slide bed wrecker to roll off with it. And his wheels were up in the air because it's a really heavy car. And when it finally got up and over, it flattened out. And he says, I'll take you to a place where maybe we can swap the engine out and get you something that we can get you to Texas. So we got inside of his truck. He looks like Colonel Sanders, I kid you not. He was spitting snuff, and his white beard was, it was nasty. Mm-hmm. But anyway, but anyway, he took us in the middle, it looked like in the middle of nowhere, and then he winded through some woods, and I was just thinking to myself, we're 2 ladies sitting in the front seat, and anything can happen. But the Lord said, this is the guy. I said, I can't see it. I can't see it. This is the guy. It opened up to a junkyard. A big junkyard was in the back of these woods. It was a very big junkyard. So he went in, and he had this little terrible little rat dog. I think it's like a rat terrier. Kept barking at me and want to bite me and all that. So he told me to sit down and see can he swap that .8 engine. It was a big old the eight cylinder, and he says, no, I don't have nothing that size. I could swap you out for a smaller engine, but it won't work. It'll keep backfiring all the way. And I was just, because I don't know how much it costs to even tow it there, for one thing. So he kind of looked at me funny, and he wiped the snuff off of his beard. And he told me, he says, you get the title to the car, and I'll buy the car from you. And then you can go to a econo rental car place and rent a car and get back to Texas. And this is what I did. So I went out and I told my daughter to rifle through the car and find, he said, you need the title. And so she kind of ran out the screen door and was looking through the glove compartment box, rifling through papers, trying to find the title to the car. Now, all of a sudden, it came back to me when I was sitting there. He says, you get that title, I give you some money for that car. And I was saying, no, not my car. I'm not giving up this car for nothing. And the Lord says, yes, you would give it up, because the engine is shot. The fuel gauge is shot. The back windows won't go up and down. I remember that. I mean, this whole thing, and you had ball tires on it, and it's just, he says, yes, you will. You will. So she was out there, and it was getting on, the afternoon, latter part of the afternoon, and it was maybe about 5 o'clock. And he says, hurry up, gal. He's yelling out the door. Hurry up and find that paperwork. So as I'm going through it, I told her, I know that paperwork, the title to the car, is in my lockbox in the closet in Elgin, Texas. Lord have mercy. But she kept looking for it. My daughter kept looking. She kept looking. And she gave me a stack of, because I had old envelopes and stuff in the car, and I stuck it up underneath my butt. I was sitting on it, and I'm looking through the stuff like this, and I just couldn't. The man, he's yelling from the inside, hurry up, gal, I'm going to close, and then you're going to come back tomorrow. And I what do you do? I said, Lord, I don't know what to do. And then my daughter says, look under your butt. You have a bunch of envelopes. You're sitting on it. So I took it out, and I was rifling through it. And wouldn't you know, the very last envelope had the title to the car. Just totally freaked me out. And the guy's yelling on the inside, hurry up, gal, hurry up. So I ran out there with the title to the car. I couldn't believe it. But that is what God can do. I gave the old man the title. And he scalded me. Who in the world drives a car with the title in it? He says, you don't do that. If somebody steals the car, they got your title. Oh, give me that paperwork. And he took it from me. I mean, he just yanked it just like that. So anyway, he started writing it up. It was the title. I know I don't do drugs. I don't smoke, drink, do drugs, or nothing. I know I put that title in a little lockbox in the closet, but it was there. So the guy says, look, I'll give you, I think it's like $300. It was like $350 for the car. And I was saying, no, I don't want $350. And the Lord says, you take that. So I took the $350, being obedient. The guy put us in his wrecker, and drove us to the place where it was Econo Rent-A-Car. And there was only two places. It was Penn State that was open and Econo Rental-Car. Penn State had a little hatchback. I had a lot of stuff in my Suburban that could never fit in a little hatchback car. Then I went over, he drove us over. Now get this, all the way to Econo Rental-Car. They were telling us they had nothing but hatchback. Somebody came from the back and said, hey, look, we have one big sedan that came in. One. And we said, and the old man said, we'll take it. So taking that car was $200 and some odd, the guy told me, to rent it from that part. And he says, you have to drop it off at another Econo Rental-Car for them to return it back to us. I couldn't believe it. So he gave me the money, the green. I gave the guy $200 for the rental car and my license and all that stuff like that. And they write it all down on a piece of paper. And he took it back and he gave us the car. He says it's going to be dirty because we didn't have time to clean it up for you. I didn't care. We went all the way back to the junkyard, what the guy did. We took everything out, everything. We cleared everything out of the Suburban, and we put it all into that big Equinox, large Chevy Blazer-looking thing. And we fit everything in there, everything you can imagine. Everything that we had, we fit it perfectly inside of that car. And the guy, he was happy. He didn't charge me for going back and forth like that. That was amazing. And so we drove all the way back to Elgin, Florida. Elgin, Texas. Thank you. We drove all the way back to Elgin, Texas. Now, when I got to Texas, this was the thing. We only had one car. She had to get to Bryan College Station. And I said, I have to turn the car in whenever I can. So either I can drive her all the way to Bryan College Station, but there was, Elgin at the time didn't have an Econo Rent-A-Car. So that means I had to go all the way into Pflugerville. There's a Pflugerville, Texas, look it up. Or had to go all the way into Austin to drop the car off. And then I have to find a way back to the house. Now, I only had $100, and that $100 carried us all the way from Mississippi because this brand new car that we had went all the way across the states, and it was perfect. I think I had $10 in my pocket when I got to Elgin, and the car was like halfway full. So, only thing I can think of at the time was to let my daughter, because she has a license to drive, all the way to Bryan College Station with the Equinox car. She drove all the way there. Now, my fear was, all right, when she gets to Bryan College Station, is there Econo rental car there? Because if it's not, then somehow I would have to get from Elgin, Texas, 100 and some odd miles to Bryan College Station to get that car and return it. It was just a mess. But the Lord made it so that when she got to Bryan College Station, she turned it in at an Econo rental car. And she walked back to her dorm. Who did it? You can't sit there and say, well, that was a mess. And the Lord did it for us. And I thank God for that, because there was no way that I can get the title to the car, and I knew it was in the closet. And she told me, Mom, you didn't check the what's under a bunch of paper, other envelopes, because I had, like a stack of envelopes I was sitting on, and I'm rifling through it. Won't he do it? I'm just telling you guys, trust in the Lord at all times. Make his praise continually be in your mouth, and the Lord can bring you through any situation. And my daughter is signing out from New Burlin.
Bye.
She's a good girl. She's quiet. She's shy. She doesn't want to be up. But anyway, that is what happened. I'll see you guys later, and I'll start making my videos of me throwing the clay. I got to get back to that. All right. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not into your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him. All your ways. And he will and shall direct your path. Departer out.